If you've spent years being the one who keeps everything running at home, at work, in your family, and you still hear yourself say, "I'm fine," even when your body feels tight, exhausted, or on the verge of tears, this episode is for you. In this mid-season stretch of life, your emotions often get louder just as you're juggling aging parents, teenage and young adult children, shifting relationships, hormone changes, and a lifetime of people-pleasing. What looks like being the strong one on the outside can actually be your nervous system stuck in fawn mode on the inside. Today, we're going to untangle emotions from feelings, talk about why emotional intelligence matters so much in this second season of life, and walk through simple, science-informed practices to name what you're really feeling, soften or move beyond the people-pleasing, and start letting go of old stories that keep you resentful and depleted instead of rooted and honest with yourself and others. Welcome to Rooted Insights, a podcast for women in their second season of life who spent years caring for everyone else, kids, partners, work, households, holding it all together while quietly putting your own needs on the back burner. If you now find yourself wondering, what's next for me? What do I really want from my life now? And how do I start prioritizing myself without dropping everything else? You're in the right place. I'm Dr. Kelley, a health and well-being specialist and mind-body expert, and here we blend grounded, science-informed practices into everyday life so we can better support our hardworking nervous systems, emotional health, and authentic selves, especially in this powerful mid-season of life. In my work with teachers inside the Engaged Classroom online course, I teach a whole module on emotional intelligence and the difference between emotions and feelings. And today I want to bring that same lens to you as a mid-season woman to help you let go of old hurts, soften or move beyond people-pleasing, and step into a more honest, lighter version of yourself. I want to start with a story I've heard in many forms from women in this season of life, and maybe you'll recognize parts of it. Imagine a mid-season woman named Lisa. She's in her late 40s or early 50s, kids mostly grown, with 20-plus years of being the go-to person, at work, in her family, in her community. She's the one everyone turns to when there's a crisis, a last-minute work deadline or family emergency. She's good at what she does, and she cares deeply. For a long time, her answer to, "How are you?" is, "I'm fine, how are you?" A little tight smile, maybe a joke about needing more coffee or a cocktail at the end of the day. Internally, though, something else is happening. When another urgent request lands on her plate, she feels a hot flush in her chest. When a late-night text or email dings, her stomach drops and she can't fall back asleep. When her partner casually asks why she's so tired all the time, she feels a lump in her throat and hears a quiet, angry voice inside whisper, "Because no one sees how much I'm holding." But to her colleagues, her family, even to herself, she keeps saying, "I'm fine, I'm just busy." Until one day, she's driving home and realizes she's gripping the steering wheel so hard her hands hurt. The tears come seemingly out of nowhere. And the truth that surfaces isn't "I'm fine," it's "I'm exhausted, I'm resentful, and underneath that, I'm grieving all the ways I've put myself last." That moment when "I'm fine" cracks open and you finally meet what's underneath is often where emotional intelligence work really begins. Today, we're going to talk about what's actually happening in moments like that and how understanding the difference between emotions and feelings can help you move through old hurts and step into your mid-season with more clarity, compassion, personal autonomy, and choice. So let's anchor this in clear language, because these words, emotions and feelings, often get used interchangeably, but they point to different layers of your experience. Emotions are your body's fast alerts. In research, emotions are described as quick, automatic, body-based reactions to something meaningful, inside or outside of you. They tend to show up in your body first as heart rate changes, muscle tension, breath shifts, gut sensations, facial expressions. They evolve to help you survive. Anger to mobilize you against injustice, fear to protect you from danger, sadness to signal loss of something deeply meaningful, or joy to draw you toward what nourishes you. They also tend to be short-lived, often seconds to minutes. unless we keep feeding them with repetitive looping thoughts. You can think of an emotion as your body saying, "Hey there, something important is happening here, and I'd like you to pay attention to it, please." Then your feelings. These are the stories we wrap around the emotion. Feelings are your conscious experience and interpretation of those emotional states. They arise when your brain takes the raw data of emotion plus your stored memories, beliefs, lived experiences, and context and makes meaning from it. I feel rejected. I feel like a failure. I feel hopeful. I feel invisible. They're constructed in your thinking brain, and they can last much longer because we can recreate them by replaying the past or imagining the future. Two people can have a similar emotion, say a rush of fear, but very different feelings about it, depending on their story. This means I'm weak versus this is my body trying to protect me. One helpful way to express it is emotion equals this hurts, and feeling plus story equals this hurts because I'm not enough, or I'm unlovable, or I always mess things up, or this always happens to me. Research shows that when we become better at accurately identifying and naming our emotions, what some researchers call affect labeling, and therapists call name it to tame it, we're less likely to get stuck in distorted victim stories like I'm broken, I'm too much, or nothing ever works out for me, and more able to regulate and respond in healthier ways. In practice, this can sound like, "Oh, I see you, old story, but that's not actually accurate for me anymore." Or, "Thank you, feelings, for bringing this up. I can feel I'm still holding on to something that doesn't need to move forward with me anymore." You're not pretending the story never existed. You're updating it to match who you are now. So emotional intelligence in mid-season is your superpower. It's sometimes called EQ or EI, and it's the skill set that helps you work with both emotions and feelings instead of being hijacked by them. It includes things like self-awareness, where you're recognizing what you're feeling and why, or self-regulation, where you're slowing down, pausing, and choosing your response instead of reacting on autopilot. And then there's empathy, sensing and understanding others' emotions without losing yourself. And finally, relationship skills, communicating, setting boundaries, and repairing when needed, and taking ownership of your life and choices. Research in adults and older adults shows that higher emotional intelligence is associated with better psychological well-being and life satisfaction, better physical health and lower stress load, and greater resilience in the face of change and loss. Studies in teachers specifically have found that those with higher EQ or emotional intelligence show lower burnout, higher work engagement, and greater self-efficacy because they can identify their own emotional states, regulate better in the classroom, and use emotions to support rather than sabotage their work. Similar patterns show up in other caregiving and service-oriented professions. For mid-season women, especially educators and caregivers, this matters because emotional load is high. Students, colleagues, administrators, family, aging parents, kids, or grandkids. And it matters because of hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause that can amplify mood swings, irritability, anxiety, and sensitivity. And finally, because of life transitions. Kids leaving home, career shifts, relationship changes, these add layers of grief, uncertainty, and self-evaluation. Emotional intelligence becomes the bridge between your inner experience and your outer life. It helps you move from "I'm at the mercy of my feelings" to "I can hear what my emotions are telling me and choose how to respond from a more empowered place." We also need to talk about one very common mid-season pattern: people-pleasing. From a trauma-informed polyvagal perspective, chronic people-pleasing is often an expression of what's called the fawn response. It's a survival pattern, not a personality defect. From an emotional health perspective, it's a kind of quiet self-abandonment. Instead of being honest about what you feel or have capacity for, you override your own truth to keep the peace, avoid conflict, or protect someone else's comfort over your own. On the outside, it can look kind, agreeable, or easy, but inside, a part of you knows you're not telling the whole truth, to yourself or to others. You can think of fawn as your social engagement system is on. You're smiling, helpful, agreeable, but underneath, your body may be in a fearful or collapsed state. Over time, your identity can get fused with being the good one, the helpful one, the one who keeps the peace, even at the cost of your authenticity and health. Emotionally, the primary emotions might be fear of conflict or of rejection, sadness of not being cared for, and anger at unfairness or invisibility. The feeling story then becomes, if I upset people, I won't be safe, liked, or loved. My job is to keep everyone else okay. Emotional intelligence here means being able to recognize my body's feeling scared and tense, or my feeling story is telling me I'll be abandoned if I say no. Or is that actually true in my current life with my current people and my current self? And is there a different story I could tell, or an old one I'm ready to release? Every time you choose a truthful no, when your old wiring wants you to fawn, you're not just setting a boundary. You're rewiring your nervous system to pair safety with self-respect instead of self-abandonment. People-pleasing is what happens when your yes is for someone else, but your truth is a no. Each honest no you practice is you choosing to stay with yourself instead of leaving yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. So let's move into some practices to make this real and applicable, especially if you default to I'm fine. Practice 1. Name the emotion and question the feeling. So step 1. The next time you feel activated by an email, a text, a comment, a sigh from your partner, pause and ask, what is my body doing? What emotion might this be? And where am I feeling this in my body? You might notice a tight jaw or clenched fists, which is often anger, heavy chest, urge to cry, which can be sadness or grief, a tight belly, a racing heart, that could be fear or anxiety, or a warmth or lightness, which can be joy or relief. Research shows that simply naming an emotion, I feel angry, I feel sad, can reduce activation in the survival brain and help you regulate. Then step 2, identify the feeling story and ask yourself, what is my mind saying this emotion means about me? Is there a deeper message here? And if I knew where the story began, when or where would that be? Common feeling stories might be, I feel like a failure. I feel invisible. I feel like I'm too much or not enough. I never felt seen or validated by my parents. Notice these as interpretations, not pure emotions. Step 3. You're going to validate the emotion and then question the story. So gently tell yourself, it makes sense that I feel angry, sad, scared right now, given what just happened. Is the story I'm telling, I'm a failure, I'm unlovable, I'm too much, absolutely true? Or is it an old narrative my brain learned? And then gently ask, what's a more accurate story I can tell myself about this now? You don't have to fully believe a new story yet. Just opening that question creates space and slows the slide from raw emotion into long-lasting self-critical feelings. A quick everyday example is after a long day where a project at work falls through and a hard conversation with your partner follows, the emotion might be frustration or disappointment. The feeling story might be, I'm a failure, I can't get anything right. Emotional intelligence lets you update that to, wow, today was hard. I feel frustrated and sad. That doesn't mean I'm a failure. It means this situation and this season are really stretching me. Practice 2. Let's move from fawn to your authentic no. This practice is for those of you who hear yourself saying yes while every cell in your body is screaming no. So step 1, learn your fawn tells. Start to notice what happens in your body right before or during an automatic yes. Does your throat tighten? Do you laugh and minimize your own needs? Do you feel yourself go numb, spaced out, or on autopilot? And does a sense of regret or dread almost instantly wash over you? These are nervous system cues that your fawn pattern may be kicking in. Remember, people-pleasing is what happens when your yes is for someone else, but your truth is a no. Each time you practice an honest no, you're choosing self-respect over self-abandonment, teaching your system that your truth is safe to live in. And step 2, let's build in a micropause sentence. So give yourself one phrase you can use almost anywhere. Things like, let me check what I have capacity for and get back to you. Or, I need to look at my week and I'll let you know. Or, I can't commit to that right now, but if that changes, I'll let you know. This creates space between the emotion of fear and pressure and the old feeling story, I must say yes to be safe or liked. Step 3, emotion and capacity check-in. So when you step away, ask, what emotion am I feeling about this request? What does my body say about my actual capacity? Do I feel heavy and tight or relieved at the idea of saying no? Then explore the feeling story. What am I afraid this will mean about me if I say no? And is that fear based on my current reality or on an old season of my life? Allow yourself a brief pause to be with whatever comes up. If nothing comes, you can move on without creating another story that doesn't serve you. Then step 4, you're going to practice one small, authentic boundary. Try a simple, compassionate boundary statement. Something like, I care about this, and I don't have the capacity to take that on right now. Or, I'm not available for that this week. Let your no be a complete statement without over-explaining. Expect some discomfort, especially if you're breaking a long-time people-pleasing habit. You can remind yourself, this is me choosing self-respect over self-abandonment. My body is allowed to feel safe and honest at the same time. Practice number 3, emotional release and restoring the past. For many mid-season women, old hurts, disappointments, and perceived failures still live in the body as unprocessed emotion plus painful feeling stories. So here's a gentle way to begin releasing some of that. Step 1. Acknowledge the event and emotions. Choose one situation from your past that still stings a bit. A career decision, a breakup or divorce, a friendship rupture, or a parenting moment. And ask yourself, what emotions are still there when I think about this? Anger, sadness, shame, grief, fear? Give yourself permission to name them without judgment. Then step 2, you want to turn on your self-compassion. Then ask yourself, if my closest friend, my child, or a stranger told me the story, how would I see them? What would I say to them? Most of the time we're far kinder and more nuanced toward others than toward ourselves. Offer some of that compassion inward. You can tell yourself things like, of course you did what you did. You were trying to survive with the tools you had. Or, of course you stayed longer than you wanted. You didn't have the support or clarity you have now. Self-compassion research shows that this stance reduces shame and supports real behavior change more effectively than harsh self-criticism. And step 3, now you want to update the feeling story. See if you can gently rewrite the about me sentence attached to that memory. You want to go from I failed, I ruined everything, I'm broken, toward I was overwhelmed and undersupported. Or I didn't have the information or emotional tools I do now. Or that choice hurt and it also led me to this version of me who's willing to look at it and make different choices. You're not erasing the event or the emotion, you're updating the meaning so it no longer defines who you are in this new season. And if you're drawn to more body-based tools, things like NLP and energy psychology approaches, like placing one hand at the base of the skull in the occipital region of the back of the head and the other on the forehead with a bit of pressure, and then holding, or tapping on acupoints while holding a distressing memory in mind, have a growing evidence base for reducing anxiety, depression, PTSD symptoms, and emotional intensity, often with lasting effect. These can be powerful adjuncts for releasing the emotional charge around painful stories if they speak to you. Midlife and the years around menopause are times when emotional shifts often intensify because of hormonal changes, shifting roles, accumulated stress, and a natural invitation to reevaluate your life. You might notice things like more irritability, sadness, or anxiety for seemingly no obvious reason. Less tolerance for misalignment in jobs or relationships that once felt tolerable now feel unbearable. Or a deeper grief for versions of you who coped by shutting down, overperforming, or people-pleasing. From a health perspective, emotional patterns in midlife influence stress hormones and inflammation, sleep quality and metabolic function, and heart and brain health into later life. Research suggests that emotional intelligence, being able to notice, name, and work with your emotions and feeling stories, supports healthier aging, better physical health, and greater life satisfaction. So this isn't about becoming less emotional. It's about becoming more emotionally literate and kinder with yourself, so your mid-season isn't run by outdated fear stories and survival patterns, but guided by who you really are now. As you step into your week, I'd love to invite a few gentle questions. Where in my life am I still saying I'm fine when my body and heart are telling a different story? And what's one emotion I've been avoiding, and what might it be trying to show me about what matters to me now or what no longer does? What's one small place where I'm willing to experiment with a more honest response, even if it feels a little shaky at first? You don't have to process everything at once. Each moment of naming an emotion, questioning an old story, or choosing a truthful no is you practicing a new kind of emotional intelligence, one that protects your health, your relationships, and your emerging self. If today's conversation helped you feel a little more seen in your emotional world and gave you language for things you've been feeling for years, I'd love for you to keep walking with me here on Rooted Insights. Follow, like, and subscribe, and if it feels supportive, share this episode with another mid-season woman who might benefit from these grounded, science-informed, and heart-centered conversations. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one "I'm fine" you're willing to get a little more honest about with yourself or with someone you trust? And what's one small practice you're going to experiment with, naming an emotion, pausing before you people please, or offering yourself a kinder story about a past mistake? Share in the comments below. Your example might be exactly what another woman needs to remember that she's not broken. She's just ready for a different kind of relationship with her own emotions. And as you head into your week, remember, your yes and your truth are allowed to match now. No more abandoning yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. You're not behind, you're in a new season of your life. And your emotional life, your anger, your grief, your joy, your hope has carried you here. You're allowed to work with it now instead of against it. And if you've been wondering what happens when those emotions don't get felt at all, when your body quietly holds the bill, next week we're going to talk about exactly that. Meantime, we're here, rooting in together, one emotion, one story, one honest yes and no at a time. Until next time on Rooted Insights. Thanks for being here.